Hey guys, welcome to Wrestling Daze and welcome to Wrestling Daze Live. We are live for this Smackdown review and we've got plenty to go through, plenty to talk about. You're going to have to let me know in the chat in a bit as well. I can't see the chat at the moment as we're doing this live, but you'll have to let me know if the audio is kind of out of sync with the picture. Because last time we played that intro, it did actually knock everything out a little bit. So what I did was I took the kind of quality of it down, and I'm hoping that that means now it won't mess it up. Because I did watch the review a couple of weeks ago on YouTube, and the audio was out of sync with the picture. So hopefully that's not happening now, and hopefully the fix has done what I needed it to do. So don't bother telling me now. I can't see the live chat, but I hope everyone is well. We're going to blast through the show. We're going to talk about what happened tonight. And I think for me, the headline was that this was fine. It was fine. It was not spectacular. I thought the ending was very good, but I do think that this is one of the weakest Triple H shows that we've had so far. Normally we come out of it with a return or someone being arrested or some kind of monumental talking point. I've been doing quite a few videos during the shows because there's been some really big talking points. And even if you don't get a return, and I don't want a return on every show, I still want something pretty big to talk about. And I suppose in a way the ending might have given us that, but this definitely feels like it was maybe the first show that didn't have anything that monumental on it. So, yeah, at this one I could see people being a little bit down on, a little bit cool on. I don't think this is going to kind of get people amped up like the previous shows have. But look, I suppose we've got to expect this. You can't knock it out of the park every time. And you need these kind of shows that kind of lull down so that when the big moments happen, they feel like big moments, you know. You can't have big moments all the time. So I suppose that's the headline, really. That's worth just getting out there, getting out the way. But let's break this thing down. And as we said, we'll go to the chat and see what you lot thought. So first match, the show just opens with Ricochet against Happy Corbin. And again, you know, I don't think this was the strongest open. I think if you are someone that's really into WWE, really into Triple H, like you are Team WWE, and you are maybe got the blinkers on and you're just like, I love everything to do with the company, then you could argue that this is a great platform for Ricochet, and you can argue that this is a great platform for Baron Corbin and for them to show what they can do. No Roman promo, nothing to get in the way. This is literally just a great showcase for them. And something that we should support and applaud and, you know, give a thumbs up to. The problem is, I would absolutely agree with that, and I would be right on board with that argument if it felt like the build for this had been good. I don't think the build for this feud is very good. It's always felt just secondary. I think that it's built on Ricochet just laughing at Corbin. Corbin, obviously, not really being that successful recently. And it just seems to be built on Ricochet just mocking Corbin and laughing at the fact that he can't win. And like he gets jumped backstage and all this kind of stuff. It's just a pretty flat feud. So as a result, it's hard for me to really get too involved in a match between them. The match itself was all right. Ricochet doing what Ricochet does. Corbin doing what Corbin does. And it resulted in Ricochet picking up the win. So, I mean, yeah, you can look at it a few different ways. People will say this was perfectly fine to start the show with. It's great to give Ricochet a spotlight. I can see it now on Twitter, people saying people complain when Ricochet isn't given a chance, and then people complain when he is. I don't think that's true. I think the truth is that we want Ricochet to be given a platform. We want Ricochet to be given a chance. But it's got to be something meaningful. It's got to be something that we care about. Just literally putting him out there in the first match is not good enough. Like, it's got to be a good feud. It's got to be something juicy, something we're on board with, something we feel a connection with, something we care about. And I don't care about this feud. I don't care about this feud. This does nothing for me. So putting him out there first thing, as I said, WWE fans, hardcore fans will make the argument that this was a great showcase for them. And I think that if you are not as like, blinded, to try and find the right words to use, but not as just blinded. If you don't just accept everything that WWE gives you is fantastic and, the greatest thing in the world, then I think you're all right to criticize this and say it was not the strongest of opens. So, Ricochet gets the win, and that was that. We move on. We move on to a Drew McIntyre biography. I said during the watch-along, this really feels to me like he is being positioned to beat Roman. I think the fact that we are looking at his journey, we are really looking back at the fact that he was the chosen one. He then got cut. He had to come back through NXT. We saw footage of him in FCW. We see him at home looking over like the land back in the UK. And it's all to build a connection with him. It's all to like get him over. Now, you can look at this a few different ways because this is the first proper build for a pay-per-view or premium live event that Triple H has had. So I could believe that this is something that he will do quite regular when it comes to like building up your main event, like show off how these people got there, why they got there, why they deserve to be there. That's not something we tend to get from Vince. We don't tend to get these kind of mini biographies is what I'm going to call them. It felt like a mini biography. We actually went to this a couple of times. So it wasn't just one segment, one little thing. There was a couple that were dotted throughout the show. I like them. I like them. My only concern is that I think this means there's a really good chance Drew does win at Clash at the Castle. And personally, that's not something I'm looking for. I think Drew has not had the best of years. I think a couple of his feuds this year have been a bit flat. I think that we're trying to warm him up now as we get to Clash at the Castle, but it does feel a little bit too late. It does feel like, I don't think the crowds are red hot for this guy to go over. This is not Daniel Bryan, right? This is not Kofi Mania. I wish that we'd got Drew to that level, but in all fairness, we've done nothing with him this year. He's feuded with Corbin and Madcap Moss for a large chunk of this year. And as I said, it's just not the most exciting thing in the world. And then, people are very split on the swords that he's been carrying around. I think it's a good, mascot thing, good kind of symbol for him. But I think where he's been threatening to, behead people, I think that's been a bit cringe. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm really split on it. It doesn't really do it for me. So, I hope Roman wins at Clash. But all of this makes me think it could be Drew. Next, we get a really, really interesting promo. This was Karrion, and what he says is not that interesting because he just responds to that Drew biography, that Drew promo, that Drew vignette. He just basically is like, you're the chosen one and all this kind of stuff. I'm going to bring you down, blah, 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 blah. All the stuff that he's been saying. But what we do actually get here is we do get... it's in a very interesting position. It's actually, you can see the ring in the background. So we are not in the ring. We are not backstage. We are seemingly up in the stands. We are up in the... I don't know if we're in the rafters. I don't feel like we're in the rafters. I don't feel like we're that high. I feel like we're in the upper level or the top part of one of the stands. And you can see the ring and sort of the crowd in the background. It's all black and white. It's all very dark. The noteworthy thing for me here is that this is a very different position to do a promo, and I like that. I like the fact we're trying some different places to do promos. So we found out as well, Karrion will make his in-ring debut, kind of, next week on Raw. Obviously, we have seen him before, but this version of Karrion will make his main roster in-ring debut next week. Oh, not Raw, SmackDown, sorry. SmackDown. And literally, as we're doing this review, SmackDown is being recorded. Next week's show is recorded. So you might need to stay away from all the spoilers. We got a real rundown of what next week's show is going to give us as a result. And as we said, Karrion's in-ring debut, if you will, was one of those things. Then we move on to the Fatal 4-Way Final Chance match. This is for all of the teams that lost in the first round to compete to get that spot. Obviously, Toxic Attraction were meant to be taking on Raquel Rodriguez and Aaliyah, but Toxic Attraction picked up an injury, and so they are out. and so we needed a replacement. So a final chance fatal four-way was designed, and the winner would face Raquel and Aaliyah. The team that won was Sonya and Natalya, which is fine. It makes sense. But what surprised me was that we were doing the match between Raquel and Aaliyah literally just like 20 minutes later. Like, they had no time. Like, not only was it on the same show, but it was really close. For me personally, I would have done the final chance fatal four-way as the show opener. I think that this match had more purpose to it. I think that I would have opened the show with this match, and then it would have also given the winners time to recover. They did a little promo with Natalya and Sonya, and I don't recall them moaning about the fact that they had to now compete again. I wish they had, because they were heels, and they should have complained, like, we've just already wrestled. Why are you making us wrestle again on the same show? We've literally just had to win the opportunity to face Raquel and Aaliyah, and now we've got to face Raquel and Aaliyah. So I would have liked for them to have kind of played into that a little bit more than they did, and in fact, they didn't play into it at all. So I think one of the things you could have done would maybe have this match open the show, but they didn't go that way. Instead, we had Ricochet and Corbin, and this match came later. And as I said, the match against Raquel and Aaliyah is not that far after this, not that long after this. Then we do get a promo segment. Sheamus is talking about how he's going to be the new Intercontinental Champion. Of course, he's facing Gunther at Clash at the Castle. And he's talking about how he's going to beat the sauerkraut out of him. This brings out Gunther. Gunther says that he's going to chop Sheamus's chest into bloody bits. He said he's going to break the man that no one thinks can be broken. Some good stuff here by Gunther. And what was really cool is that they were cutting a promo on each other. And whilst they were doing that, they then go face to face and stare at each other, whilst the other guys start fighting around them. So you got Gunther and Sheamus just staring at each other, whilst Butch and Ridge and Ludwig are battling away all on the outside. It was quite a nice visual. It went on a bit long. It went on a little bit long. I would have had it a lot shorter. But it was a nice visual, and I really like the focus of Sheamus and Gunther face to face. That match is going to be a barn burner, man. I think that match that could steal the show. It really, really could steal the show. I think they will always invest in the main event, and certainly if Drew's going to win the titles, it's going to be very hard to be the major talking point then. But I think if any match from an in-ring perspective can steal Clash at the Castle, I think it could be this one. I'm very, very excited for these two going up against each other. Then we went backstage promo with Natalya and Sonya. They were talking about, obviously, their match that they were just about to have, where they were hoping to reach the final of this women's tag team tournament. In the background, as clear as day. I mean, they made no attempt to hide this whatsoever. But in the background, you could see Nikki and you could see Doudrop arguing. And I said on the watch along, big arms being thrown around, very animated. It's not even as if they were just talking and, just you could see there was a bit of a disagreement. It was all very big, very dramatic. They wanted you to see, they wanted you to notice that there was real trouble going on. So does make me think, could we get a split? And could we potentially get Doudrop versus Nikki at Clash? Maybe do it on the pre-show? Because I do think those two need to get on that pre-show. I mean, we're going to Wales. Why would you leave off two of the girls from Scotland? So I think if they work together in a tag team, that could be fine as well. You've just got to get them on that show. I don't think it needs to be the main cards. I don't think they've really got any stories or feuds that deserve the main card. But chuck them on the pre-show. Do you know what I mean? Be a great way to warm up the crowd, bringing out Doudrop, Nikki A.S.H. They're going to get a fantastic reaction. And just put them in a match against someone. Doesn't even matter who. Just as long as they're on the card. This was great. You want to talk about highlight of the show? This might be it right here. This was absolutely fantastic. Every single week, Sami knocks it out the park. Sami Zayn is the MVP of this show. right? Sami Zayn is carrying this show. Forget the tribal chief, forget Gunther, forget Sheamus, forget Liv, forget anyone. Sami Zayn is the GOAT of SmackDown. He is absolutely brilliant. So he's on the outside saying that he wants to see Roman. And Jimmy gives him a warm reaction, a warm hello. I think he even said Roman's been talking about you, Jay, cold as ice. They're really playing up this Jay feud with Sami. And finally Roman calls him in. He comes inside, sits down. He's very awkward, sits down. He says oh, my jaw's still hurting me, kind of a thing, just making out. You remember last week, yeah? When I took that Claymore for you, remember, yeah? Oh, still sore. And he was really playing that up, and Roman's I really appreciate what you did. I was on my own last week, and you stepped up. And, Sami, I said during the watch-along, his face lit up like it was every Christmas had arrived at once. His facial reactions, it's so good, so good. I feel like I'm on a journey with him. This story that is being told that involves Sami, I don't know where it goes. I don't know what the end result is, but wherever it goes and whatever the end result is, I can't wait to see it. And I hope that Sami gets the last laugh. I hope that whatever this story is, he gets the last laugh. I do agree with people when they say that he could join up with Kevin Owens and they could be the ones to take the tag titles off the Usos. You know, the Usos could turn on Sami, beat up Sami. Sami could let them down one too many times. And then, we see Kevin Owens come into his aid. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn beating the Usos. I mean, that'd be a hell of a match. And what a great moment. I personally would love for him to go up against the Tribal Chief and get a victory. I'd love for him to be WWE champion one day. I think he really has got it in him to achieve that. And we saw that when he was in NXT, he became NXT champion. He got to the top of NXT. He managed to beat Kevin Owens for that championship. He didn't have it that long, but he got there. He's like the underdog from the underground. So I think there's a lot of support for Sami. And what I had written down was basically Roman said, I need you to do me another favor. I need you to occupy Drew. I need Drew to be occupied. And Sami's like, that's not a problem. It's not a problem. I'm going to make myself comfortable in that ring. I'll wear him down and you finish the job at Clash at the Castle. So he was up for that challenge. He was really invigorated. And what I love about this as well is Sami wears the old Bloodline shirt. It was something I commented on during the watch-along. If you actually look at the Usos and you look at Roman, they're wearing the new Acknowledge the Bloodline shirt. Sami is wearing the old Bloodline shirt. So what I love about that is it's just a visual representation as to his relationship with the Bloodline. So he is the honorary use. He's sort of in the Bloodline. He's not really family, but he's trying to work with them and he wants to be a part of them and he's wearing the shirt, but it's not the same shirt as them. It's the old shirt. He's just that step behind. He's never really been accepted. You know, I mean, it would be really cool if he did do something that helped them and he did some stuff at the end. You know, Roman could give him the new shirt and say, I don't want you wearing that anymore. You're one of us, and give him that new shirt. And I could imagine Sami's face lighting up as he can't believe it's a symbol. He's been accepted. He's wearing the same shirt as Roman, the same shirt as the Usos. And that could be a real great way to bring him into the fold. So just little details like that, man. The storyline is so good. There's no way that that's a coincidence. I really believe that this has been thought through to that level of detail. And it's great. I love everything about it. I think they're knocking it out the park. Next, we get that match. As I said, it really wasn't long after. We just had a couple of promo segments, the Sheamus segment, and then, a couple of little interviews, the Sami bit. Then we get the match where Sonya and Natalya take on Raquel and Aaliyah. Raquel and Aaliyah get the victory, and that was that. They are going to the final. The final is on Raw, I believe. And so that means that it's going to be Io and Dakota taking on Raquel and Aaliyah for the tag team championships. Now, I think the winners will be Io and Dakota. That was my pick from the very beginning. because I thought it would either be Io and Dakota or Alexa and Asuka. As soon as they faced each other, I thought, well, they'll probably go with Io and Dakota because they're brand new. They're part of Bayley's faction. You really need to establish Bayley's faction. You need to get them over. They've only just started, so why would you give them such a big loss? They need to show that they are the best. They need to show why Bayley brought them here. She brought them here because she believes in them. If they were to lose this tournament, kind of gives out the wrong messages that they're not even that good. They're not really as good as some people that Bayley could have got. So I think it makes a lot of sense for them to win the tournament. I expect them to win the tournament, but I do expect Sasha and Naomi to come back. Now, does that happen Monday? Maybe. I certainly don't think it's happening next Friday because that show is being taped right now. So you're not going to bring Sasha and Naomi on a taped show. So it's either going to be Monday on Raw or it's going to be at Clash. It could be after, but I think, now we are doing something with these tag belts for a reason, right? We're doing something for a reason because for the longest time, we weren't doing anything with them. We were meant to do a tournament and then we didn't, right? But now we are. And I have to think now we are because we're pretty close to Sasha and Naomi coming back. There was big reports that they're coming back. Big reports they're coming back. So I feel like the reports are probably true. They're probably accurate. I think that they are on the way back. And I think this tournament has been designed and started for that reason. I've always thought Sasha and Naomi come out after the new champs are crowned. So that could be Monday. But we are so close to Clash that if you want a real big moment, do you do it at Clash? Do you do it at Clash? It would be a big surprise. It would be a big moment. They could come down. We know that Io and Dakota are on that show, so they can easily confront them. It makes perfect sense because Sasha and Naomi will be faces. Even though they did walk out, I think there's so much time that's gone by. There'll be some fans out there that are a bit down on them, but I think the vast majority will have forgot about it or even not even cared originally. So I think they'll come back and they'll be faces. So I can see Sasha and Naomi taking on Io and Dakota for those titles. Not at Clash, but we could start the ball rolling at Clash. So yeah, I think next week at some point, I think we could be getting Sasha and Naomi. Then we went backstage. We had Maximum Male Models for some reason in the car park. I don't know. You could maybe make the argument the light is great in the car park. I don't know. But they were in the car park and there was loud noise. It was Hit Row's music that was blasting out of this coach. And basically they went and got Los Lotharios. They showed some paint, some spray paint. And they said, we can deal with this for you. And then that was it. The segment ended. So not a very long segment. It was just Maximum Male Models doing their posing, having a problem with the noise coming from a nearby coach, and then Los Lotharios arriving with some spray paint. So that's where we left that. Then we went to the ring, and we had New Day in the ring. So we got to see Xavier. He was in a wheelchair, and his foot was in a boot, a surgical boot. And they were saying that they had underestimated the Viking Raiders and how the Viking Raiders had been burning boxes of Bootios and they'd been burning New Day merch and they really hadn't given them maybe the credit they deserved. And so they were just trying to, talk to the crowd. And of course they get interrupted. Viking Raiders come out saying, stop sniveling. The one thing that Vikings hate is weakness. And Xavier's like, can you not just give us a few minutes? We're trying to gather our thoughts and speak to our fans. And obviously the Viking Raiders wouldn't give them that time. They got into the ring. And as they got into the ring, Xavier managed to produce a couple of kendo sticks from underneath his wheelchair. Turns out that he's not injured at all. And New Day start walloping the Viking Raiders with those kendo sticks. We found out that there would be a match made. I think it's a Viking rules match, which is no DQ, no count out kind of a thing. That's made for next week. So again, they'll be taping that right now. So yeah, this injury to Xavier was clearly a work. because he's going to be involved in a match for next week's show. Then we saw what they did. They actually spray painted on the side of the coach, "Hit Row Sucks." So that's how they managed to get their own back on Hit Row. They spray painted "Hit Row Sucks" on the side. I don't quite understand how that gets Hit Row's attention if they're in the coach making a lot of noise. Like, surely you just want them to stop. So why wouldn't you just knock on the door and ask them to stop? But instead, they decided to spray paint "Hit Row Sucks" on the side. They were quite pleased with themselves, Maximum Male Models and Los Lotharios, until it was pointed out that that is not the Hit Row coach. And as soon as they said that, of course, the door opens and out steps the Street Profits. So it turns out it was the Street Profits coach, and they don't look very impressed. I don't know how upset they'll be that "Hit Row Sucks" is spray painted to the side of their coach, because what do they care? But it probably doesn't look great, does it? You've still got to clean it off. So I should imagine they were still probably upset with it. Then we got this, which was really weird. They showed us a giant inflatable Ozzy Osbourne, and I really don't know why. I think it must have been outside the venue. I missed why they were showing us this. I don't know if it was outside the venue or if it's just because Ozzy's got like real connections with WWE, and I think he's in the Hall of Fame. So, and he's got a new album coming out, so they were promoting that for him. But there's like a 30-foot inflatable Ozzy Osbourne, which I am so going to use in the thumbnail for this. Why not? If you've got the opportunity to include a 30-foot inflatable Ozzy Osbourne and you don't use it on the thumbnail, I just don't know. I don't know what to say. So yeah, I'm gonna slap that on because it's pretty wild. So yeah, we did get a inflatable Ozzy Osbourne. Then we got a list of stuff we can look forward to next week. So they went down a whole list. So Roman Reigns celebrates 2 years as champion next week on the show. As well as that, we've got Ronda Rousey's final judgment. So we're going to find out a little bit more about what they've got in store for her, like what's going to happen. She was obviously arrested. So we're going to find out the next stage in that story. Then we got Karrion Kross's in-ring debut, kind of debut, you know what I mean. Then we've also got Hit Row taking on Maximum Male Models. That's going to be next week. And we've also got Butch taking on Ludwig Kaiser. And a Viking rules match. New Day taking on the Viking Raiders. So quite a bit announced for next week's show, which isn't a big surprise because we don't need to wait. They're taping it right now. So it makes sense they know what they're taping. So that's why they could tell us so much stuff. So yeah, we've got all of that. Of course, it's getting taped because they will be in Cardiff next Saturday. So it's not going to give them much time to do a live show and then get over to Cardiff. So they're taping it instead. So yeah, plenty to look forward to next week on the Go Home show. Both shows next week are the Go Home shows for Clash at the Castle. Then that brought us to our main event. We had about half an hour to go, and it was Drew taking on Sami. They did give this match some time. Drew was pretty much in control, but there would be times where Sami would go out the ring, get back in the ring. Drew would come in, and that would allow Sami to kick the ropes, regain the momentum. So there was a few times where Sami could, get back into this. But by and large, it was largely Drew McIntyre that was winning and in the driver's seat. And it meant that Drew got the win relatively comfortably after hitting a Claymore. And we still had quite a bit of time to go here. There was about, I think it was about 8 minutes or so left in the show here. So I did wonder what was going to happen. And of course, Roman Reigns comes down. Roman comes down. The Usos get involved. Sami gets involved as well. And the beatdown here is probably the big talking point. Like the title that I've got for this is Drew McIntyre destroyed, because he absolutely was. He gets hit with a spear. He gets hit with a haluva kick. He gets hit with chairs. He gets hit with ring steps. Like, he just gets hit with so much stuff. He gets guillotined by Roman Reigns as well. Like, they absolutely beat him down. I would imagine next week, Roman's going to be quite pleased with Sami, even though he lost the match, and that will be mentioned by Jay, I'm sure. The fact that he helped them like wear down Drew, I think will be something that Roman will probably appreciate. He certainly seemed to enjoy it, Roman, when Sami delivered that haluva kick on the outside. So, yeah, this was a brutal beatdown. And it was good. I mean, it was really good. As beatdowns go, this was really, really impressive. Quite a striking final image as well, as Roman was sat there with a chair across the throat of Drew. Both championships on his shoulders. He was saying that he is the whole industry. The whole industry is his. The whole business is his. It's basically not going to be taken away from him. And all of this does add fuel to the fire, fuel to the theory that Drew will overcome this and win at Clash. I can't say that it's guaranteed. I probably am thinking 60-40 in favor that Drew wins. If I do a poll, and I probably will at some point on Twitter, maybe on the channel as well, who wins at Clash at the Castle? I think I'm personally about 60-40 Drew wins at Clash. We know that USA want one title, so I could imagine maybe Drew winning both and then surrendering the Universal, saying that he knows that SmackDown deserves the fighting champion and he can't do both shows. So as much as he wants both, he thinks it's better to surrender one. Like maybe they go that way. You can argue it's a bit lame to do that. But I think, or maybe Drew does try to be on both shows and does try to do Raw and SmackDown. But I don't see how that's going to work because, you know, you're going to need a challenger for the Universal. You're going to need a challenger for the WWE. Like, it's going to be hard for one person to carry both belts. And, you know, Roman's done it by just really not having that many matches. Like, and there's been complaints as a result. You know, people feel that he's just a part-time champ. People are a bit down on the fact he's not defended enough. I think that Drew, as a babyface, if he does win both belts, I don't think he should fall into that trap. He's either going to have to work really, really hard and defend on both shows, or does he just acknowledge that at the moment that's just not possible, and that, you know, SmackDown deserves a champ and maybe he surrenders the Universal? I think that would be disappointing if he was to do that. But saying that, I think it'd be disappointing if Drew wins. I think Drew is just a bit cold at the moment. I know it makes a big main event kind of moment at Clash. I know that, like, when Drew did win the title, it was at WrestleMania 36 and there was no crowd. So he's never had that live crowd reaction. I get all of that. But for me, he's just a bit cold. I just don't feel for Drew the way I want to feel for someone that is eventually going to be beating Roman. You know, I really like, if Cody does it, I'm right behind Cody. I really want Cody to do it. You know, there's people that I really do want to win and want to see beat Roman. Drew is not one of those people. So I was talking in the watch along about, well, how do you end Clash at the Castle then if you don't have Drew win? And personally, I think how I would book it is I would have Drew winning the match easily, well, not easily, but looking like he's going to win. You know, maybe he delivers a couple of claymores. Roman is out. Roman is not moving. And then Sami gets involved. Usos get involved. You could even do it whereby Drew has dealt with all of them as well, and he's still about to win. And maybe then you bring in Solo Sikoa. Like, the Bloodline are really scrambling because Drew is the biggest challenge. He's managed to deal with the Usos. He's dealt with Sami. He's dealt with Roman. He's dealt with everyone. There's no one left. There's no one left that can help Roman. Here's Solo Sikoa. Out of nowhere, Solo Sikoa comes in and costs Drew the match. The Bloodline win. They've got their newest member. The only way they survived was by bringing in a new member. And, you know, there's nothing more Drew could have done. Drew does not look weak in anyone's eyes. That's going to be a downer for the live crowd. Bloodline can start beating up on Sami, and then Tyson Fury's music hits. Tyson Fury, some music hits. People don't quite know who it is because, you know, he has a few different themes for his ring walks. And as soon as Tyson Fury comes up on the Titantrons, though, people, I can imagine, going crazy. as he steps out. I think he's still got like one of his belts. So he could come out with like one of the belts. Can't remember which one. I don't know if it's the WBC, but he can come out with the World Boxing Heavyweight Championship and make his way down to the ring. And the Bloodline, their faces would just look, do you know what I mean, shocked as, you know, the heavyweight boxing champion of the world is making his way down. So I kind of think like that would be such an iconic, such a fantastic moment as Tyson Fury. You know, Drew doesn't look weak. He's done everything. Bloodline's had to add a new member. It's a great way of adding Tyson Fury and on the show and sending everyone away happy. And, you know, I think that could be quite an iconic end. But I know there'll be a lot of people that will say like, oh, so you're going to give that big final moment to, Tyson Fury? You know, you're not going to give it to a wrestler. And I can understand that argument, but I mean, how else are you going to not put the title on Drew? You've got to end it on a high somehow. And if you're not going to give him the belts, then, you know, how are you going to end Clash at the Castle with a bit of a high note? For me, that's one way of doing it. But if other people have got better ideas, I am absolutely open to hearing those. But yeah, at the moment, I'm probably 60-40 that Drew is actually going to get the championships. So those are my thoughts anyway. Let's jump over to the chat and see what people are saying. V Technical said, I want Drew to win, but with the twist of a cash-in, just like 2013 with Cena and Bryan. The only thing is, though, you are going to be sending the crowd back with a downer because Drew would win it, but then he gets cashed in on. So the show ends with Theory standing tall. And I think for this show to be so this is going to be a show that gets spoke about. This isn't just a normal show because this is the biggest show in 30 years. And if you think like SummerSlam 92 ended with the Bulldog winning the IC title and the Bulldog standing tall. So I kind of feel like you need to give something to the UK crowd. You need something for the UK crowd to go away celebrating or like, you know, cheering about like, you know, yeah, the UK. I think that's going to be something that WWE will look to do. And I don't know that Theory cashing in would be that thing, to be honest. It'd be a talking point, but I don't know if that's right for this show. Daze, what sense would it make for Roman to lose his titles before the Usos? I think they're separate things, to be honest. I think that Roman's title reigns are separate to the Usos' title reigns. I don't know that you can look at the Usos' title reigns and say, like, oh, you can't do that because the Usos haven't lost their belts. I think, for me, I look at them as being, like, separate. So I don't think that would be enough of a reason to stop Drew from winning at Clash. I just think that Clash is such a big show for the UK. You know, they keep banging on about it, and honestly, the adverts are absolutely everywhere. I mean, this show is being built up like a WrestleMania over here. It's adverts all the time. And like we're seeing, they've got adverts on benches and things all over Cardiff. It's really got a massive, massive show feel. I think that this is not a B show. This is as big as SummerSlam, easily as big as SummerSlam. So I think like here I can definitely see there being a title change, or there's potential for a title change. If they don't do it and Roman ends the show standing tall and that's it, I will be very surprised, I have to say. I will be very, very surprised. John Bay said, is Drew Reigns the biggest match this year? I think one of. I don't know if I can say it's the biggest because they went really big with WrestleMania. You know, they put both titles on the line, champion versus champion. One person would walk away with both, and that was how we unified the belts. And we had to do that and go that big because they'd faced each other so many times before. So it was a case that we needed to go quite big. And it was the WrestleMania main event. So it's hard to say that Drew Roman is bigger than that. And then, of course, you can look at SummerSlam and say that SummerSlam is a massive match as well, big show as well, but a massive match. It maybe did suffer from the fact that it was, you know, Brock Roman again, but I mean, wow, look at the visuals that came out of it with the ring being flipped over and all of that stuff. So I don't know. I would go as far as to say one of, definitely, because I think this is his biggest threat. I didn't think that he would lose at WrestleMania, Roman, because I didn't think Roman would lose to Seth, because I knew Roman was going to main event WrestleMania. So that was Royal Rumble, wasn't a concern. Yeah, Roman wins. Didn't think he would lose at WrestleMania because it's Roman against Brock. I didn't think Brock was going to stick around. He doesn't tend to. Once he's done his build for WrestleMania, he tends to go after. So I didn't think he'd be going with the belts. So I felt like, fine, he'll get past that. Then I can't remember who we do after that, but SummerSlam, for example, didn't think he'd lose that because actually Roman faces Riddle. Then he was meant to be facing Randy, and then he was meant to face Drew. So he faces Riddle. We knew he wouldn't lose that because we knew he was meant to face Randy and then Drew. Then instead of Randy, they do Brock, and that was meant to be Randy. But again, didn't think he would lose because Drew. And now here we are. Here we are with the match against Drew. So for me, this is his biggest challenge of the year. The all of 2022, there's been no Roman match that I have felt that he would lose until now. And I am going into Clash thinking this could be the one. Now, I hope it's not because I want Roman to get to 1,000 days. But I really do think this could be the one. I think there's a really good chance of it. Camden said, do you think if Drew wins both titles, could Kross beat him for one of them? Yes. I mean, that's probably one of the questions I'm getting asked the most at the moment is how do you get one belt off Roman? How do you do that? And the answer is, I don't know because WWE don't know. The latest report I saw, which was the other week, is that they know they need to get a belt onto USA Network because USA Network want a championship, a world championship on their show, but they don't know how to do it. So, yeah, I really don't know. There's been lots of fan theories as to how you can do it, but right now, Clash at the Castle is for both. Right now, it is for both. And that doesn't change my mind that it means there's no way that Drew wins because it's for both. I just think that means that he could be winning both. And Drew as a babyface, I can see him surrendering one. I really can. I can see him doing the babyface thing of saying, look, SmackDown deserves a fighting champion, and I cannot be that fighting champion because I need to be on Raw now or whatever it is. I need to defend this title on Raw. Or maybe he keeps the Universal and says, look, I'm a SmackDown superstar, and Raw has got absolutely incredible talent, and I don't want to hold that talent up. Like, they deserve an opportunity to fight for their world title. So it is with a heavy heart I'm going to have to surrender the WWE Championship because Roman's coming for me, and we know that Roman, that's going to take all of my focus. And, I can't be on Raw as much as I'm going to need to be. I can't criticize Roman for not being a fighting champion and then not be on Raw, not defending this championship. So it's with a heavy heart I have to surrender it. I could see him doing that. I'm not saying that that's great. I'm not saying that that's what should happen. I'm just saying that I can see him cutting that promo. So, we could get that. But I have to keep coming back to what I keep saying, and that is I just hope that Roman retains. Riddle versus Rollins for a vacant WWE Championship. Yeah, could see that. Drew will stay on SmackDown. Michael said, how was the show? If Drew wins next Sunday, then you won't get your dream of Roman hitting the 1,000-day mark. No, I wouldn't. That's why I hope it doesn't happen. But what did I think of tonight's show? I thought it was all right. I wasn't blown away by it. I mean, my personal score would probably be about a 6.5. I thought that this was average. I thought there was definitely some good moments that stopped the show from being a disaster. I didn't think there was really any horrifically bad matches. I really enjoyed the Sami segment. I enjoyed the beatdown at the end. but there isn't a great deal for us to sit here and really get our teeth into, you know? I don't know that there's much here for us to really be talking about. Like, if someone was to say, what have I missed tonight? You know, what are you going to say? Well, Drew got beaten up quite badly, and Raquel and Aaliyah made it through to the final of the women's tournament, which I think was largely what people expected anyway. I mean, that's about it, isn't it? Those are really the only talking points. So, and then you've got the little stuff like, you know, what Maximum Male Models were doing, or Ricochet getting a win. But to me, that's all just, you know, throwaway. So, yeah, I thought it's all right. Be about 6.5. It seems like Raw is the brand to watch for surprises, says Josiah Davenport. I'm waiting for a Tegan Knox return, said Justin. That might happen at Clash. I mean, she is Welsh. I feel like she really needs to be on that card. Even if she's not back permanently, at least bring her out for a little moment. So, Hayden said, can you look at people's scores? Yeah, we will do that. Yep. I'm just getting a few of these thoughts. Michael said, what do you think about using some of the released NXT UK talent to do jobs on Raw and SmackDown to build up some teams like Hit Row and Maximum Male Models? I wouldn't do it, to be honest. I think, like, why not just use local talent? I don't think you need to use the released NXT UK stars. They're based in the UK. You'd have to fly them over. It's an unnecessary expense. You're not going to do anything with them. You know, you might use them for 1 week and that be about it. You might as well, just if you're in Nashville, just go to like some local Nashville promotions, get some local talent, just use them as jobbers, which is what they tend to do. So I would do that rather than like flying people in that you haven't really got any long-term plans for, if you know what I mean. Josiah said, do you see Sasha and Naomi ruining the finals and winning them back? No, to be honest. I don't see them ruining the finals. I can see new champions crowned, and then I don't know if immediately or if at Clash, or even maybe the Raw after Clash, we get Sasha and Naomi return. I could see it being a case that Io and Dakota win, they're celebrating, and then Sasha's music hits, and then Sasha and Naomi come out, you know, the former champs that never lost their belts. They were stripped of their belts. They never lost them. I could see them coming back. I mean, you've got to remember that Sasha and Naomi walked out because they wanted good feuds for the women's tag division, and that's just not something Vince was interested in. Well, a lot of things have changed since they left. A lot of things. And if they come back now, they've got a ready-made feud, haven't they? Their ready-made feud is Io and Dakota and all of that. Now, the only thing I would say is I don't know that I would do it on Raw, because really Raw is a go-home for Clash. So what you want to do is you really want to focus on the stuff that's happening at Clash. Really, Monday's Raw is all about convincing you to tune into Clash at the Castle. I don't know that you bring back Sasha and Naomi there. It might be better to bring them back at Clash at the Castle, because you feel like there's going to need to be a nice big surprise for Clash. Sasha and Naomi could be that surprise. And it makes sense that once Io, Dakota, Bayley have finished their match against Asuka, Alexa, and Bianca, it would make sense that, you know, maybe they lose, they start beating them down, someone needs to make a save. Sasha's music hits. Sasha comes down, Naomi come down. All of a sudden, it's no longer 3-on-3. It's now 5-on-3. The heels are outnumbered. They maybe jump over the barricade, run through the crowds, and boom, there you go. You've got your brand new feud. So, you know, because Bianca can't really get involved with Bayley and whatever permanently. She's the women's champ. She needs to defend that championship, as, you know, as a solo star. So she could maybe defend it against Bayley. So maybe Bianca and Bayley stay in that kind of little feud. But I can see Io and Dakota feuding with Sasha and Naomi. But my money would be on that happens at Clash rather than Raw. Legend Killer said, I'm looking forward to Karrion's match on Friday on SmackDown next week. Justin said, what is your mostly hated video game of all time? I don't think I have one. I don't really play that many video games, to be honest. So I don't know that I've got a video game that I absolutely hate. I mean, games that I absolutely love, like from a wrestling point of view, Mercies, Here Comes the Pain, things along those lines. And when I was young, anything that was WWE, WWF would have been amazing. I mean, I used to play, I can't remember if it was called Rage in the Cage on Game Gear. So I used to play that quite a bit. And you look at the graphics and the gameplay and everything about it, it is trash. It is rubbish. It is so rubbish. But I spent so many hours as a kid playing that. I was just sat on a chair, blah, 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 just absolutely loving it. So, yeah, some of those old games just won't have aged very well. So, but I can't say I hate them. They've got like nostalgia for me now. I've got real nostalgia towards them. I think they even released that Rage in a Cage as like one of those plug in and play things that you just plug straight into your TV. And I think they released it as that. And I did see like it's selling in various shops in America for like quite cheap. You just plug it straight into the TV and you can play it. As I say, it's a rubbish game, but it was cool. I mean, I definitely would have got one of those if I had seen them in America. I think they were selling them like maybe Walmart or Target or something. But yeah, I had the original on Game Gear. It's rubbish. Justin, shout out to you. I could see Bray at the Royal Rumble, said Josiah. Sasha and Naomi would have been a surprise. SmackDown next week is being taped. Could Sami turn on Roman at Clash and side with Kevin Owens to start a feud with the Usos? He could. I mean, I can't sit here and say he won't, but I think that's going to be a difficult story to tell because I feel like you probably need a united bloodline to try and overcome Drew. I think if the bloodline have got a few problems where Sami has already been kicked out, and, maybe that could play into Drew getting the title. Maybe Sami could help Drew get the title. So you could, but I feel like that's a lot of moving parts. That's a lot of story that you need to tell in quite a short space of time. So I'm going to say that it could, but I think it unlikely to happen so quickly. I think that I could see them turning on Sami. If Roman loses the titles at Clash, Sami will be the one that takes the fall for that. Sami will be the one that's blamed. And maybe the fallout of Roman losing is that Sami is, beaten up on the following SmackDown or whatever and blamed, and then Kevin Owens comes to his aid. So the fallout could result in that. If it goes that way, of course. We still don't know that Roman's definitely losing, but I'm 60-40 that Drew walks out as champ at Clash. Michael said there are rumours that a fan favourite is reportedly returning tonight for the taping. Who could it be? I haven't seen those rumours, so I really don't know. And to be honest, bringing someone back on a taped show is a bad idea because that's going to get out. I mean, that's going to leak. So I wouldn't do it. People will still want to tune in to see that moment, but to be perfectly honest, I'd imagine people in the crowd will film it and put it on social media and ruin that moment anyway. So I really don't think bringing someone back on a taped show is a good idea. So I'm going to say that I'm going to lean towards those rumors being false, but we'll find out, won't we? We'll find out. Have you still got the arcade machine that your mum got you for that Christmas? I do, yeah. It's actually on the bar in front of me. So we've got like a little bar down here, and it's just on the end of the bar. It's really cool, but I must admit, I picked up a Stream Deck about a month ago, and that has got everything like that I need. You can get WrestleFest on that as well. So the Stream Deck's my new favourite thing. What about Bray returning at the end of Clash? Yeah, I don't think so. Bray coming back, I'm at about 10% now. Again, I think that if you're booking Clash, the final thing that you want to happen is something to send the UK fans home happy. Because I can't stress this enough. The UK show is such a big deal for people in the UK. We've waited 30 years. In fact, I was not even watching wrestling when the SummerSlam 92 happened. It was Survivor Series 92. That's my first show that I get into. So I wasn't even into wrestling. I wasn't watching wrestling when that SummerSlam 92 show is on. So it shows how long ago that was, you know? So it's kind of crazy that we've had to wait so long for such a big show. And now it's here. I think you send the UK fans home happy now. In my mind, honestly, I can see the fireworks going off, and I can see Drew standing tall with the belts as fireworks shoot into the sky, crowds going crazy. I can absolutely see that. That's why I'm so not adamant, but it's why I'm saying that Drew winning is likely. I can envisage that happening. But I think that if you don't do that, that's why I'm saying maybe Tyson comes down, Tyson Fury comes down, because he's a massive star, international star. He is still technically the heavyweight boxing champion of the world. We know that he's worked with WWE before. I think a lot of people are expecting him to be on this show. I think if he is going to be on this show, I can see him being around the main event. He's clearly not got a match. So if he's going to have to come out, he's going to have to make an appearance at some point. I don't think you bring him out during the middle of the show or whatever. I think he comes out during the main event. So that's why I'm saying that's the alternative for me is the Bloodline win, crowd are down, but don't worry. Here's Tyson Fury. Yay. Everyone cheers. And you know what? It might not play that well in America. It might not be something for the American market. They might just shrug their shoulders, but in the UK, that would be received very well. That would go down very well. And as I said, if you look at SummerSlam 92 and how that ended with the British Bulldog standing tall, winning the IC title, I think you've got to think along those lines for the end of Clash. Bray Wyatt just does not fit into that for me. Bray Wyatt is nothing to do with the UK. It'd be a big moment and the UK fans would respond well to it, but I don't think this is the right moment to bring him back. You could bring him back on the show, but I think unless you do it in the main event, it's not the biggest problem because Bayley came back, obviously, but Bayley coming back, obviously, she was going to come back at some point anyway. She was only injured. So Bayley coming back is one thing, but actually getting Bray, who was fired, to come back, I feel like that's bigger than Bayley coming back. So I feel like you should do it in the main event, but I don't think they would do it. I don't think they would do Bray in the main event just because of the UK thing. But, what it could do is, set up Roman's next challenge. If Bray does come back and help Drew, who's being beaten up, then it kind of gives you an indicator of what's next for Roman. And what's next would seemingly be Bray. So I'm certainly not going to rule it out, but I think if you bring Bray back, I probably wouldn't do it at Clash. I would do it at a different show. Maybe Extreme Rules, which I think is next. But saying that, Clash, you get a bigger reaction because it's a stadium show, and I don't think there's any other stadium shows. So it's got that going in its favour. If you did bring Bray back, it would be the biggest reaction because I think Extreme Rules is in an arena and I think Survivor Series is in an arena. So definitely worth just thinking about. There's a YouTube channel called It Begins Again that teases Bray in general. They've done that all year. Yeah, I'm aware of that channel. They just do videos, fan videos basically. But whenever we get to a bigger event, they just create those videos and just tease his return. In fairness, I don't know that they're teasing his return because they've got nothing to do with WWE, but they just create fan videos basically of what it could look like, kind of a thing. So I've seen some of those videos. Give me a prediction. Hit Row against Maximum Male Models. I really don't know because Hit Row could win and just squash Maximum Male Models because they're a bit cringe, but they're meant to be. So if they're just a job team, then they could just squash them. Do you know what I mean? And it could just be a good first win for Hit Row. If this is going to be a feud, then Max Dupree could interfere from the outside, and that could actually result in Maximum Male Models getting the win. So you could go either way. It really depends on what story you want to tell. Do you want this to be a feud? If you want it to be a feud, then have Max Dupree interfere. If you just want to give Hit Row a good win to kick things off, then they could just squash Maximum Male Models. My guess is they're probably going to have this be a feud. So I'm going to say that Max Dupree interferes from the outside and helps Hit Row get the victory. The models suck. Extreme Rules is in Philadelphia. It's at an arena. I was going to go, but I'm going to go October 21st to SmackDown, says Josiah. Yeah, I mean, definitely the fact that Clash, we are going to look at the scores now, but definitely the fact that Clash is at a stadium definitely adds fuel to the Bray Wyatt theories. Because to me, if you bring in Bray back, you want the biggest reaction possible. So definitely adds fire to the Bray theories. But my counterpoint to that would be, I think you probably want something a bit more UK specific. But it's undeniable if Bray comes back even at Clash, it'll get a big reaction. So yeah, a bit torn on that. I feel like you could do other things for Clash and save Bray for like Extreme Rules or Survivor Series. But Triple H, if he has got Bray and Bray's ready to go, then you could absolutely do it at Clash. Right, let's go over to the votes, shall we, and see what's happening over there. So let me try and jump into the responses. Very nice. Don't forget, if you want to vote, you always can. The link is always at the top of the screen, and you can click on that in the pinned comments. You click on that, and then you can vote. I think it does ask you to sign in with your Google account, but I don't get access to any information or your Google information or anything. I literally only do that because when we didn't do that, when we didn't ask for you to like sign in first, then we were just getting 10 out of 10 winning, and it was just being spammed basically. You could vote as many times as you wanted, and it kind of really ruined the poll in a way. It was a bit of a shame. Been much better since we've done it this way, and we're getting a lot more accurate responses. So you can see, and I really like the answer to this actually. So 7 has won, and in second place was 6.5. In third place was 6. So very much in the area that I was. I said 6.5. I'd be about that. So 6.5 in second place, 7 top. So looks like 7 is going to be the official score for this week's SmackDown. We've got my favourite part of the show was Sami and Roman. I am getting to the point that Sami should be the one to beat him for the belts. I do agree with that. And that they are going to screw Sami over sooner rather than later. Love stuff that Sami is involved with. So this is all the positive stuff that people enjoyed. So lots of talk about Sami. Bloodline beat down. I think Sami proved himself and might get a role at Clash at the Castle. Bailey harassing Michael Cole, even if the banter back and forth wasn't as good as it used to be. No Liv is always a plus. And the main event saved it today. Roman beating down Drew. I enjoyed Karrion and Scarlett doing the promo, says Hayden. Hit Row, Street Profits. Hit Row sucks. Roman Reigns attacking Drew. Drew and Sami and the post-match attack, says Frenchie. Bloodline and Honorary Use. Sami working with the Bloodline. Bloodline and Sami segments. Bloodline beating down Drew. TikTok, Karrion and Scarlett. Gunther and Sheamus stare down. Roman sitting on Drew's face. The Cross promo. Ricochet against Corbin. Roman and the Bloodline. Roman and Sami. Brock Lesnar against Theory. Sheamus and Gunther. The ending was great. Lots of Bloodline, lots of Sami, lots of people saying the same things as you can expect. Then we got the worst thing about the show. So no effing Ronda. She is the GOAT. She is on next week's show, though. They said her segment's on next week. I'm going to have to call Hunter out for a fight. Drew getting pummeled by boring Roman and the insufferable Usos. The Bootios getting sacrificed to the greater goods. Aaliyah cryface emoji. The whole Hit Row Maximum Male Model truck thing. Chatting with the Wrestling Days community was French's least favourite part of this show, which shots fired. Sonya and Natalya winning the second chance match. The rush time between the women's matches. Back-to-back women's matches. At the end, when Bloodline attacked was someone's least favourite moment. Hit row and MMA stuff. The first 90 minutes of this show. The fact the women's qualifying match was pointless. Ricochet happy match. Spray paint in a bus. Tag team match. Drew video promo. That's interesting. Dexter Loomis. Thumbs up. The ladies match. Ricochet against Happy Corbin. So there we go. I think a lot of stuff that people probably would have expected. But there we go. Whoever submitted Brock versus Theory, what episode of SmackDown was you watching? The least favourite was the ending of the show, says Tori. Right, we are coming towards an end here. John said, what if Cena shows up after the main event and attitude-adjusted Roman? I'm not expecting that. I'm not expecting Cena to be involved at Clash or be involved in any storylines at the moment. So, yeah, I'm not expecting that. Do you think BFAB could be added to the women's division? I do, yes. I do. Mr. DXZ said, do you think Theory will successfully cash in? I think he will, but I'm not expecting it to be at Clash. I really think that if he cashes in, it's going to be next year. And I've actually said that for me, he cashes in on Cody. I could see Cody winning at WrestleMania. So I can see the WWE title going to Raw. I can see Cody competing for that WWE title and winning that WWE title. And that's when Theory cashes in. Mad heat. Edward said, mine was Roman will turn on Sami and Ronda not being on the show. Daze, next NXT call-up, main roster. A couple of rumours on Indy Hartwell and Solo Sikoa, so those ones. Theory will definitely cash in at Clash, says Joe. Bonkers says, fatal four-way match. Why bother when Raquel and Aaliyah were still winning? John said, do you see Swerve returning in a few years? He could. Yeah, he could. It really depends how he's enjoying AEW. If they can convince him to re-sign, then he'll re-sign. But in a few years' time, who knows how he's been used? It really depends how he gets booked and how he's treated and if he's enjoying it or not. I think they would probably welcome him back. We don't know where Hit Row will be in a few years. I mean, honestly, they might have split up. You know, in a couple of years' time, they might have all gone their separate ways, or, you know, it might not be that there's really a spot for Swerve. But I think Swerve, you know, definitely had his fans and definitely had people that appreciated him in NXT. So, yeah, I think there's probably a good chance he could go back. I would have to say, though, that it's probably unlikely, because I think that he will probably be booked and used quite well in AEW. He's being used well at the moment, but we'll have to see in a few years' time. Theory can't cash in at Mania. He would lose the Money in the Bank in May next year. He can cash in at Mania. Money in the Bank is after Mania. So he can cash in at Mania. He'll still have it by Mania. Money in the Bank will be after Mania. John said, I think Theory made a deal with Paul and will cash in for only one title, whichever one Roman was going to give up on anyway, says John. Keaton said, how would you book Roman after he loses the belts? That's a long conversation, bud. It really depends who he loses them to. I mean, I can see him going away and doing more movies once he's done with these title runs. So I think that he'll just be used sparingly. I think he'll still work I think he came out and said he's re-signed and he's definitely working the big shows and some of the smaller shows. But listen, I think we're getting to the point where it's going to be largely the big shows. It's going to be Rumble. It's going to be the Saudi shows, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series. I can see it being that. So I think that Roman's booking will be just things that kind of put him in feuds with the current champions, or maybe you do a bit of a feud that connects the Rumble to WrestleMania, and like, you know, those two are connected, and maybe connects the Saudi show in between as well. So you could do a feud of, I don't know, Roman Bray or whatever, and it could start at the Rumble, play out at the Saudi show, and finish up at WrestleMania. So actually, like, booking him is going to be difficult because I expect his schedule to get even less. I think what you're getting from Roman now is not what you get once he loses the belts. I think his schedule gets reduced even further. With USA wanting a title back on their show, I can't see Drew taking both titles, can you? Well, if he's going to win at Clash, I can, because at the moment that is for both belts. And I really don't know how you only make it for one belt. So at the moment, if he is going to win at Clash, and I've got it 60-40, I think he will, it looks like he does take both. I don't want him to, because I want Roman to continue with that Universal title reign, because he's on the verge of getting to 1,000 days, and I want him to get to 1,000 days. But I am struggling to see how we book it and how we get there. I mean, one of the ways that we get there, of course, is that you could have Drew win, and then you can have Theory cash in for one title. We don't know that when Theory cashes in, he gets both titles. It could be that when he cashes in for, you know, one title. But we would need that to be explained, because no one has said that that's the case yet. I really, really don't think WWE have figured this out yet as to how they're going to get it to one belt. So we'll see. I can't see Roman having a successful movie career. He just doesn't have The Rock's charisma, says Jim. Edward said, I also said I think Solo Sikoa will attack Sami, and that's how they will turn on Sami. Thoughts? Maybe. I think we're working quite a few steps ahead. There's, you know, it's difficult enough to say who's going to take the belts off Roman, and then, like, when does Solo Sikoa come and get involved? And then when do they turn on Sami? Like, there's so many moving parts there. It's quite difficult. I think you have to just take it one step at a time rather than trying to jump forward several steps. So unless you think Roman's going to retain, Solo Sikoa arrives, and then Sami just gets kicked out. But I don't know. It feel a bit soon to me. I feel like we need to just continue this stuff with Sami for a little bit. But that could all change if Roman loses the belts at Clash. So, read my super chat. Oh, I didn't see a super chat. Did that come in whilst I was doing the thing? Let's have a look. Bakayuka said, Paul Levesque might change belt designs. Yes, we did talk about that during the watch along, that rumours are belts could be changing. I think that he should. I think that the belts could be improved and be made to look a lot better than they are. But I think you've still got to keep the WWE logo quite prominent, because I was making the point that back in the day, when pictures were taken, they tend to go into magazines, and the magazines would have a little caption telling you who the person was and what the belt was and things like that. Now, with social media, you can have pictures put up online that don't tell you who these people are. Some people just put pictures up and that's it. It's literally just the picture. So really, the belt has got to do a bit more work now than it had to in the past. You know, when we had the Winged Eagle, it never had to do the kind of work it has to do now. Now, pictures have to speak for themselves. And one of the ways they do that is by getting the logo very loud and proud. If you have a picture of Bianca and she's holding the Women's Championship and it's got a massive WWE logo on it, anyone, anywhere in the world, if they know anything about WWE, will know that is the WWE logo, and they will know that that person is a wrestler, and you don't need any text to tell you that. And in this social media world that we live in, where billions of pictures are being shared all over the world in various different contexts, that's quite an important thing. So I think whatever the belt design is, you need a very large WWE logo. It doesn't only have to be the WWE logo, which is what we've got for the WWE Championship, the Universal Championship, the SmackDown Women's Championship, the Raw Women's Championship. It doesn't have to just be that. It can just be quite big in the center with other things around it. but I do think you need to bear that in mind. So I know there's a lot of people hoping that we'll go back to old belt designs, and I really don't think we will. I think the days of the big gold are gone. The days of the winged eagle are gone. I think that you need... look at the IC belt. The IC belt has got the WWE logo in the center with stuff around it. So I'm kind of thinking it's like, going to be something along those lines. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see like what he comes up with. But I just hope that it's very detailed. I hope it feels prestigious. I think even the AEW Championship is similar. That's got the AEW logo in the center with lots going on around it. I love that AEW Championship. I think it's great. Really great. So, yeah, there's definitely things that you can do. So, I hope he does change them. And we did get another one. We're just going to shoot very, very soon. Let me try and get to that. Oh, it's gone. It has disappeared. I wonder if I can find a way of getting to it. I'd like to read that other super chat that came in. So we'll try and do that. Roman will retain both titles and UK fans will go home crying like sheep. I'm down for that. I'm not going to be able to get back to it because when it came through, I was looking at something different. So I don't know who put that through. That's members chat, but feel free to put it in again and I'll try and read it. Or don't put it in again, just put it in a normal chat. Michael said, Big Boy Dally, the decision to unify both bouts shows how out of touch Vince and Bruce were. What do you think of the new NXT unification titles will look like? Similar thoughts, to be honest. I think you need NXT to be quite large somewhere. Both have got NXT. I mean, the NXT belt has got NXT. I've got to think they might not change the belts. I've got to think that they're probably quite happy with how that new NXT title looks, and they're probably just going to keep it at that, to be honest. So, yeah, I don't think they're going to change the NXT one. I think they'll just sadly just get rid of the UK ones. Do you have any small critiques from Triple H's WWE that you miss from Vince? I think that they could introduce a bit more humour, but to be honest, I think they're now trying to do that. We saw them spray painting the side of the bus tonight, and even though that wasn't the greatest of segments, and even though it featured on many people's negatives, I think that the fact that they are trying to inject some humour into the show is something that I can applaud and something that I can get on board with. I actually thought Sami was quite humorous as well with his reactions, so I was down with that as well. And Bayley's interactions with Michael Cole, someone mentioned. I obviously don't really get a chance to hear those because I have to have the sound turned down, so I can't say like how great they were, but anything that gets a bit more humour onto the show is very welcome. So, yeah, I would say the humour has been missing a little bit, but I was never... I mean, look, the humour was always hit and miss under Vince, but what I would say is that... even if the segments are bad, if you're watching it live, it gives you something to talk about, even if it's like, oh my God, that was so bad. Why did they think that would work? Like, even if it's that conversation, it still gives you a talking point. And I've missed that, to be honest, because there's just been a lot of wrestling and a lot of matches followed by another match straight after. And then maybe a little backstage promo and then you go to another match. So... even the bad segments have been missing, any kind of segment has been missing. So yeah, I've missed those, and so to get a few more of them tonight, that was welcome. Even if they were bad and they missed the mark, it still allowed us to go, oh, I wouldn't have done that. Why? That wasn't very funny. They can do better than that, kind of a thing. But at least it gave us something to like talk about and break up the matches a little bit more. So yeah. That's always been like the biggest moan, the biggest criticism, and they've, started to look at that now. So good. The visual of Bayley and Dakota and Io staring at Becky Bianca at SummerSlam looked promising. Do you think the build is lackluster and flat? I feel Becky being out has hurt it. Well, Becky being out has definitely taken it out of this, yes. Is it flat? It probably is a little flat, yeah. It probably is a little bit flat. But we know that this wasn't the original plan. So We don't know what we would have got, but yeah, I'd say it's been a little flat. But I'm sure the match will be great. And obviously, you know, they're probably going to be the tag champs, Io and Dakota. So they'll at least be able to go in and brag about that. And they obviously got past Asuka and Alexa, so they can rub that in their faces as well. And Bianca's got a belt. Bayley's going to want it. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's all right. It's all right. I don't think it's a disaster or anything, but we know it could have been better. Justin said, when are you joining WWE? Oh, I'm too delicate, mate. I'm too delicate. They only have to look at me and I'll start crying. I'm basically the same as Liv Morgan. Trini said, since Sami told Fox that he actually has a lot of say in his creative and Roman said the same, I'm thinking a long-term plan that doesn't involve Solo. Since Sami told Fox that he actually has a lot to say in his creative and Roman said the same to SI, I'm thinking there's a long-term plan. Okay. I hope so. I'm not in any rush for Sami to be turned on. I think he will be, but I'm loving the story at the moment, so I'm in no rush for it to be wrapped up. Could Paul Heyman say to Drew, if he doesn't win, read the small print, you only get one belt? If Drew wins? I don't know, to be honest. I don't know. If he wins and holds up both titles, and then the next night, Paul Heyman's like, you need to read the small print, it was only for one belt, I think a lot of people would be like, well, why did the graphics say it was for the Undisputed? Because the graphics are saying it's Undisputed. So I don't think that would actually play very well. I think wrestling fans would be like, that's not what the graphics said. Cody needs to first win the belt and then have the right to change the design. Big time backstory. If NBC Universal, that owns USA Network, buys WWE, does the Fox deal get scrapped? It wouldn't be scrapped, but would it not be renewed? That's a different conversation. But they wouldn't just scrap it. You can't just scrap it. It's a contract, it's a deal, it's in writing, it's done. So it wouldn't be scrapped, but it would. It may not be renewed. Did you see that WWE will stay PG? I did see those reports, yes. Don't know how true it is, but I did see that that was doing the rounds. Right, well, with that, I think we wrap up. We've already run over longer than we normally would, but you know I love these reviews. I love sitting here and chatting with you guys, and I know many of you don't get a chance to join us for the live watch-alongs, so it's great talking to people that maybe we don't normally talk to on the watch-alongs, but either way, really appreciate the support. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I really hope you enjoyed like breaking this down and kind of going through the full card and then doing a bit of a Q&A afterwards. If you do want to watch and join us live, we're always live when Raw is live or when Smackdown is on. We're doing NXTs now as well, so we're going to be back for NXT on Tuesday. We are doing Clash at the Castle as well, so we will be, when Clash at the Castle is live, we will be live on YouTube doing our live watch-along, live reactions, live thoughts, as the segments are underway. And then, of course, we will be doing our post-show reviews for all of those as well. So really appreciate the support. Thank you so much for joining us. And I will see you again next time. Bye for now.